Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the thick of it with a hyper-focused, data-driven look at the shifting dynamics of the Hood County real estate market, specifically looking at the numbers for June 2026. Now, if you've been keeping an eye on the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex lately, you already know there is a ton of economic movement, job growth, and shifting inventory all over the place. But, real estate is inherently local. And what's happening right here in Hood County? Well, it's telling a really unique, honestly fascinating story all its own. Let's kick things off with the typical home value right now. It's sitting at $382,681. Now, what's actually really interesting about that figure is that it represents a 0.4% dip over the past year. I know, a fraction of a percent might not sound like this earth-shattering drop, right? But when you put it in the context of the absolute explosive growth we've seen across North Texas over the last few years, this number is a big deal. It represents a very distinct cooling trend. Basically, the market is finally catching its breath. And that slight little dip brings us to the core tension we're going to explore today. Is Hood County decisively shifting to a buyer's market? I mean, for the longest time, it feels like sellers have totally dictated the terms, the timelines, the prices, the whole shebang. But as inventory ticks up and these values kind of flatten out, that negotiating power is clearly rebalancing. So today, we're going to dig into the exact data points that reveal who actually holds the leverage right now. To figure that all out, here's our roadmap. We'll start with 1, the Hood County snapshot. Then 2, supply, demand, and pricing. 3, zooming in on local cities. 4, the rental market realities. And finally, 5, the bottom line. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the Hood County snapshot. Let's look at the big picture. We are literally looking at a tale of two markets here. In Hood County, values are showing that slight 0.4% year-over-year decline. But right next door in Tarrant County, the median price actually ticked up 1.7% from last year. This just beautifully illustrates how Hood County is kind of defying the broader regional stability. While Tarrant and the greater DFW area are getting buoyed by these massive population influxes and corporate relocations, Hood County's local inventory is just behaving differently. It's offering this rare, quiet pocket of softening prices. Another major indicator of this cooling trend is the number 45. That's the median days to pending. For buyers, you know what that means. It means that crazy weekend frenzy of multiple sight-unseen offers is largely in the rearview mirror. You actually have 45 days of breathing room. You have time to schedule inspections, weigh your options, maybe even, sleep on it for a night. You no longer have to make these rushed, high-stakes financial decisions in a matter of hours. Moving right along to Section 2, supply, demand, and pricing. So why exactly are values softening and days on market stretching out like this? Well, it all comes down to the fundamental laws of supply and demand. Looking at the June 2026 breakdown, we've got 769 homes sitting in active inventory and 181 new listings hitting the market. But the real story is in the pricing. The median list price, basically what sellers are crossing their fingers and hoping to get, is roughly $410,000. But the median sale price, what buyers are actually writing the check for, is just over $384,000. That is a massive gap of nearly $26,000. It tells us sellers are still aiming high based on, past market performance, but buyers are successfully bringing them back down to reality. And the data brilliantly illustrates exactly how those negotiations are playing out in real time. A staggering 60.9% of homes in Hood County are currently selling under the list price. Just over 25% are selling right at list, and only a tiny, tiny fraction, 13.3%, are going over list. If you wanted absolute proof that the negotiating power has decisively swung toward the buyers, well, here it is. When more than 6 out of 10 homes close for less than what the seller asked for, it's pretty obvious who is driving the bus right now. This local data aligns perfectly with the broader economic trends we're tracking across the DFW and Tarrant region. As regional market analysts have pointed out, buyers currently have some serious advantages: more time to evaluate homes, increased negotiating power, and a much greater likelihood of getting seller concessions. While the Texas economy is incredibly strong and job growth is still a massive driver, this localized inventory buildup gives today's buyers the upper hand. They've got time, they've got leverage, and honestly, sellers who refuse to acknowledge this new reality are just finding their homes sitting stagnant on the market. All right, Section 3, zooming in our local cities. We've been talking about Hood County like it's this one giant monolith, but real estate is deeply hyperlocal. There are massive pricing gaps depending on exactly where you look. For example, if you're shopping in Granbury, the typical home value sits comfortably below the county average at around $377,000.
But drive just a little bit down the road to Tolar, and suddenly you're looking at an average jump to over $427,000. Keep going to Lipan, and boom, you clear $500,000, sitting at nearly $514,000. This perfectly showcases how quickly values scale up and why understanding your specific micromarket is absolutely vital.
And the story just continues when you look at other local pockets. You've got places like Rainbow, Crescent, and Godley hovering right in that low to mid 400s range. But then there's Nemo. Nemo is the most expensive market in the county right now, coming in at nearly $538,000. So the big takeaway here is that while the overall county average is dipping slightly, luxury and high-value pockets, they remain incredibly strong. A countywide buyer's market definitely doesn't mean you're getting a discount everywhere. Which brings us to Section 4, the rental market realities. Let's flip the script for a second.
For a lot of folks, the alternative to navigating this whole fluctuating housing market is just to rent. Now, we've already established that home purchasing values have stalled out, down 0.4% year over year. But rental costs? Oh, they are moving in the exact opposite direction, up 3.2% year over year. This creates a really fascinating kind of weird tension. Buying a home might be getting slightly more approachable from a pricing standpoint, but waiting on the sidelines and renting is actively getting more and more expensive. To put a hard dollar amount on that, the average rent in Hood County is now $1,794 per month, and that includes a recent 1.1% month-over-month increase. Now, it is worth noting for some context that even with these increases, Hood County is still quite affordable compared to the national rental average, which currently sits at $1,965. So renting here is still a relative bargain nationally. But locally, it's definitely demanding a larger piece of your paycheck than it did last year.
All right, Section 5, the bottom line. Let's bring it all home.
We have covered a lot of ground today, looking at county averages, micro-city variations, list-to-sale price gaps, and the rental landscape. Let's wrap all these data points up into some actionable takeaways. It really breaks down into 4 key facts. First, Hood County values are flattening, completely defying the broader DFW growth trend. Second, buyers absolutely have the leverage right now, proven by the fact that nearly 61% of homes are selling under the asking price. Third, micro markets matter immensely. Your budget is going to swing wildly depending on if you're shopping in Granbury or Nemo. And finally, if you choose to rent while you wait, just be prepared because rent is currently rising faster than home values. Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. You have buyers gaining real negotiating power, homes sitting on the market for 45 days, and rents quietly creeping up in the background. If you've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for the frenzy to end, well, the data says it has. So analyze your own financial goals, look at the specific neighborhood you want, and ask yourself, is now your moment to make a move? Thanks so much for joining me to explore the data today. Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.